A federal judge tonight has just permanently blocked the president's executive order that targeted a law firm which represented Hillary Clinton in 2016. The judge is ruling tonight that the president's order was an unconstitutional effort to amass power. And the ruling from Judge Beryl Howell is scathing because it says this, and I'm quoting now, "In purpose and effect, this action draws from a playbook as old as Shakespeare, who penned the phrase, 'The first thing we do, let's kill all the lawyers.'" She goes on to write, "When Shakespeare's character, a rebel leader intent on becoming king, hears this suggestion, he promptly incorporates this tactic as a part of his plan to assume power." My legal source tonight is former federal prosecutor and a friend of the show, Elie Honig. I'm pretty sure you have also quoted this on this show before. Am I right?
Yeah, no, I like that quote. I dug into the Cliff's Notes. It's from Henry VI, the character that says...
Do you like that quote?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because it doesn't mean...
You're a lawyer.
Right, so but it doesn't mean, hey, let's throw Elie Honig in the river and all his friends. It means if you want to take over, if you want to be autocratic, if you want a lawless society, get those pesky lawyers out of the way. So I think it's applicable here.
Some people might say that anyway.
Could be.
Really, though, in terms of what this ruling means,
yeah.
We've been watching this fight with the courts and Trump all along. To say that they're permanently blocking this, I mean, what does that mean for other law firms that are fighting Trump?
I want to make a public service announcement. Every law firm that fights this in court will win. These executive orders, and I don't mean to be overly dramatic here, these executive orders are wildly, patently over the top illegal. They violate the First Amendment right to free speech. They violate the First Amendment right to free association because they punish people at law firms around these people Trump has singled out. They punish clients. They violate the right to counsel that people have, right of counsel of their choosing. It is no surprise this judge struck this down, and I think other law firms who are finding themselves in this dilemma should take a lesson from this.
But I was thinking, my first thought today was, oh, what does this mean for the law firms that already settled with Trump and agreed to do 1 kajillion hours of pro bono for him, and also his aides made money in the process of brokering it outside the White House?
Right. The firms that have bent the knee here and entered into these quote-unquote settlements, what I would call shakedown agreements, they probably are and should be feeling some buyer's remorse now. And the thing about these deals these firms have struck is they have no guarantee that they'll be protected from here on out. I mean, extortionists do not stop when you pay them the first time. What's to stop Donald Trump from saying, now I want more pro bono hours from you. Now I want more concessions about your personnel. So there's an interesting, really, rift happening here within the big law firm community where some are digging in and fighting and others are giving in, and there's actually a lot of tension and disagreement there.
Well, and Harvard is one of the institutions that is fighting back against the president. We heard from the president, who told the Wall Street Journal earlier and said, but after the president posted this morning that he is taking away Harvard's tax-exempt status, that it is decided. The White House is trying to argue that's not an official IRS move. I don't know where that puts the IRS in the middle of all of this.
Yeah. So there is a law, a criminal law, that says the president and certain other high-ranking executive officials may not request that the IRS open any investigation, period. It's a criminal law. It's a 5-year max.
Which came about because of Nixon.
Right, exactly. And unfortunately, now we are in an era. Look, I'm not going to sort of glibly say, oh, the president needs to be arrested or anything like that. But we are now in an era when you see something like this happen, and you immediately know what's going to happen next at a DOJ, which is nothing. They're not going to look at it. They're not going to open an investigation. And that's just the reality of what they are. And I've read some reporting that, well, maybe the IRS opening up these investigations is coincidental. I mean, I don't buy that for a second. Trump is out there tweeting about it. I'm going to strip their tax-exempt status, flagrantly violating the rule. And next thing you know, IRS is on it.
Oh, and they just named the new acting IRS commissioner as well. There was a whole fight over that. But the president of Harvard told the Journal, if the government goes through with a plan to revoke our tax-exempt status, it would be highly illegal unless there's some reasoning that we have not been exposed to that would justify this dramatic move. Yeah. I mean, is it possible, though, that they find something that they use as the justification here? I
don't think so, because the way that an organization or a college loses its tax-exempt status is if they're engaged in political or commercial activity, too much of it, right? And Trump's argument is, well, Harvard is extremely liberal. The student body leans left. That's true. I mean, disclosure, I went there from law school. I'm not just saying it to say, I have to say it. But it is a liberal-leaning place. That's not the equivalent of engaging in political activity. Every student body in the country leans one way or another. Most of them lean left. But that doesn't mean colleges are engaged in political activity. He's conflating, is there an ideology that prevails on campus with actual political activity? Things like paying for campaign ads, active canvassing, using the school's resources. So I think this effort will fail in court as well.
Ellie Honig, we will see.
Very opinionated tonight.
You?
Yes.
I mean, I think that's pretty much every night. But anyway, we love to have you.
We begin tonight with breaking news in the president's campaign of intimidation and retribution against big law firms, which has been remarkably successful. He's extracted deals where they promised to give him tens of millions of dollars of free legal work. Tonight's news concerns one big firm which has refused to make a deal, Perkins Coie, which represented Hillary Clinton's campaign in 2016 and which the president targeted with an executive order. A federal district judge has just struck that order down. Judge Beryl Howell writing, "No American president has ever before issued executive orders like the one at issue in this lawsuit, targeting a prominent law firm with adverse actions to be executed by all executive branch agencies, but in purpose and effect, this action draws from a playbook as old as Shakespeare, who penned the phrase, 'The first thing we do, let's kill all the lawyers.'" CNN's Evan Perez has been going through the ruling, joins us now. So the judge gave a sharp rebuke of the Trump administration. What else did she say?
That's right, Anderson. This is a sharp rebuke because it totally cancels the executive order. This is the first order from a judge that says the entire order is unconstitutional and is blocking it in a final order. And one of the things she does is she points out that quote again from Henry VI, Shakespeare's Henry VI, and she says, in a cringeworthy twist on the theatrical phrase, "let's kill all the lawyers," she says that this executive order takes the approach of "let's kill the lawyers I don't like," sending the clear message that lawyers must stick to the party line or else. And Anderson, she goes on to point out that one of the key parts of this is the fact that it essentially makes it impossible for defendants, companies or people to choose a lawyer of their own, of their choice, essentially, because you now have to pick a lawyer that the president likes in order to defend yourself in federal court. And she says it's a clear violation of people's constitutional rights. And she also points out, Anderson, that President Trump made clear his intentions. You know, normally in cases like this, you have to try to figure out what was the president thinking, what was the intent of the president. In this case, he made it plainly clear in the preamble to all of these executive orders. He makes clear that he's doing it because he doesn't like who these law firms were representing, that they oppose him. And he also points out that he doesn't like their diversity practices, their hiring practices.
The whole thing is designed to intimidate them and prevent people who may get fired by this administration or want to sue this administration from actually being able to hire lawyers in Washington, D.C. with experience. Evan, stick around. I want to bring in former federal prosecutor and best-selling author Jeffrey Toobin. Jeff, we've been covering this now for a long time. Judge Howell also wrote that what the president is trying to do is contrary to the Constitution, which requires that the government respond to dissenting or unpopular speech or ideas with tolerance, not coercion. So does this ruling, does it apply? Is it just about the executive order regarding this firm, or does it apply to all the other firms as well?
It just applies to Perkins Coie, but it's important to remember that 3 other judges have also issued preliminary rulings, not a more final ruling like this one, also rejecting what the Trump administration has tried to do regarding 3 other law firms. So the scorecard at this point is 4 judges finding these orders against law firms unconstitutional, and 0 judges supporting what Trump has tried to do. Now, these cases are all going to start to move through the appellate process. Perhaps they'll go to the Supreme Court, but it is just worth noting that judges across the political spectrum in different cases involving different law firms have all said what Trump is trying to do in these completely unprecedented coercive orders against law firms is unconstitutional.
And does this render toothless any similar threats the president might decide to make to other law firms as well?
No, it doesn't. I mean, he is free to keep trying because Judge Howell's opinion only applies to Perkins Coie. Now, it becomes a precedent that other judges can look to, but it's not binding on those other judges. And
Jeff, why do you think this is so important? I mean, it's not just about why to you is this so important? Because it's not just about defending high-powered law firms. I mean, they're wealthy; they can take care of themselves. But what is at stake here?
Well, what's at stake is whether lawyers work for their clients or they work for the government. I mean, the idea that the president can decide that a lawyer or a law firm has represented someone that he doesn't like, and thus can sanction those lawyers. And remember, think about the sanctions here. I mean, what Trump has tried to do to Perkins Coie is say they can't enter federal buildings. Their clients are exposed to sanctions simply because they hire Perkins Coie. These are incredibly coercive sanctions that are meant to be applied to the law firms. And the only reason is because Trump doesn't like their clients. It's not that they violated any law. And, you know, that puts in peril the idea that all individuals, all companies have the right to pick the lawyers of their choice.
Yeah.
That's what's at stake here.
Evan, has the government said they're going to appeal this? I assume they will.
Oh, yeah, exactly. They haven't said yet, Anderson, but yes, I mean, they every one of these things, they've decided that they want to try to go all the way to the Supreme Court. And look, and I think what Jeffrey's pointing out is extremely important here, because this set of orders has been extremely successful, you know, for the president. As you pointed out, a number of other firms, because of this, it's had a chilling effect. And you've had a number of firms who've gone straight to the White House and tried to make deals.
Right. I think it's like hundreds of millions of dollars at this point. I forgot the actual total.
Over $1 billion is what the White House has said they have been able to get, what they say is free legal services, pro bono legal services, essentially for things that whatever the Trump wants, right, with the firm's agreement. And so that's part of this. And it's also spilled over into other things, right? They, not only law firms, but obviously they've gone after universities with Harvard. And so other universities have been afraid to stand up to the president because of this example. And so if you can go after these firms, the question is, what else can you go after? And so that's part of why this is such an extraordinary and important ruling from Judge Howell.
A federal judge just ruling that his executive order targeting Democratic-tied law firm Perkins Coie is illegal and unconstitutional. It marks the first time that a federal judge permanently blocked the president from enforcing an order to punish legal firms that he says he opposes politically. Judge Howell writes in part, quote, "No American president has ever before issued executive orders like the one at issue in this lawsuit, targeting a prominent law firm with adverse actions. This action draws from a playbook as old as Shakespeare, who penned the phrase, 'The first thing we do, let's kill all the lawyers.'" Evan Perez is out front. And Evan, you know, look, law firm after law firm has buckled under pressure from the president to do various deals. So now you have this ruling against the president in the case of Perkins Coie. How significant is it?
This is very significant because now you have a judge who is saying that the entire executive order is unconstitutional, Aaron. And she goes on to say beyond this, she says that there's a cruel twist to that Shakespearean quote. She says it's basically the "let's kill all the lawyers I don't like." And that's exactly what Donald Trump, what President Trump has done. Look, there is no doubt what the intent that the president has behind these executive orders, because he's made it very clear. In the preamble to all of them, he goes into chapter and verse of all of the things that he believes these law firms have done against him, against his allies, and why he dislikes them and why he is taking these actions. And so it's kind of really made it very clear for the judges to know what the intent of the president is, why he is taking action against these law firms. And so, as you pointed out, now we have three firms that have actually challenged them, but by and large, the legal industry has kind of folded. A lot of them, big law firms, have basically gone to the White House and made deals. What the White House says is that they've signed deals worth up to $1 billion of essentially pro bono work for the president in exchange for getting rid of these orders, right? Big names like Paul Weiss have made deals with the president of the United States to try to avoid getting these executive orders. And so what this judge is doing now, Aaron, is significant because it's also not only basically, denying, the parts of the executive order that had to do with their ability to get into federal buildings, for instance. She's also saying that the president can't even suspend security clearances, which is a big, big part of this.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And those security clearances, which they had representing both sides of the aisle always, right? That had been the precedent and the way things were.
Exactly.
All right, Evan, thank you so much. And obviously, important breaking news. So let's go now to the Democratic Congressman Adam Smith, the ranking member of the House Armed Services Committee. Prior to joining the House, I know, Congressman, you were a lawyer in both private and public practice. You were also prosecutor for the city of Seattle. So when you hear this and you've watched law firm after law firm after law firm make these deals with Trump, what is your reaction tonight as you look at this, former prosecutor and a lawyer, to this breaking news of a federal judge ruling that his executive order, Trump's executive order targeting law firm Perkins Coie, is illegal?
Well, it's very encouraging. Look, the fact that so many law firms have bowed to Trump's pressure was incredibly troubling. Now, obviously, Perkins Coie has a very strong Seattle connection. They're one of many law firms that rejected me for a job when I graduated from law school years ago. It's a Seattle institution, but it goes way beyond just this one law firm. Trump is trying to shake down law firms to make sure that they don't represent Democrats or anyone he disagrees with. That is the action of an authoritarian dictator, not of a democratically elected president. And the fact that so many law firms just bowed to this only gives him more power. I really applaud the law firms like Perkins and others who have stood up to it. And this judge ruling helps stop what President Trump is doing. But the whole country should recognize just how bad this is for freedom and democracy, that a president could put this amount of pressure on a law firm.
Now, Congressman, as the ranking member of the House Armed Services Committee, I want to ask you about some developments also in the national security front tonight. Breaking news about President Trump ousting Waltz as national security advisor and replacing him with Rubio. So a person who spoke with Rubio tells CNN tonight that he plans to stay in this additional role of national security advisor for up to 6 months. So that would mean that he keeps his job as Secretary of State, 2 other positions as well, USAID as well as archivist. But we looked back, and the only person who has held the job of national security advisor and Secretary of State at the same time, Congressman, at the same time, is Henry Kissinger.
Yeah. Look, these are jobs that are vastly more complicated than back in the early 70s when that was true. And it really does jeopardize our ability to meet our national security needs, to not have people in all of these other positions. So it's part of consolidating power around the few. It ties in to some degree with the law firm conversation. Trump wants all the power. He doesn't want people around him to have power. And that consolidation weakens the U.S. by taking away needed talent in different places to make sure we're covering all of the ground we need to cover. Secretary Rubio has more than enough to do as Secretary of State. The National Security Advisor is supposed to be the day in and day advisor tracking all that's going on in the world. Secretary of State needs to be out in the world doing diplomacy. This will limit the ability of the U.S. to meet the challenges we face.
So the White House today just confirmed this story about the military parade. Now, this has been percolating for a while, right? We'd heard from the mayor of Arlington that they had been looking into it. And now the White House confirms that Trump will host a military parade on June 14th. That is his birthday. He turned 79 on that day. It is also the Army's 250th birthday. Now, the AP reports that the Army plans dated this week, so they came out this week, call for more than, just to go through these numbers, I'm sure you know them offhand at this point, but 6,600 soldiers, at least 150 vehicles, and they don't say what those vehicles are, as in how heavy they are to the roads, and 50 helicopters. So, I mean, it's the Army's birthday. It's Flag Day. It's also Trump's birthday. Is this a good use of time and money right now?
Absolutely not. It's also the birthday of the original Adam Smith, the Scottish economist, but that's not relevant either. Look, this is a horrible misuse of military funds. We have a very tight budget, big needs. This is a waste of money, which is bad Worse is the authoritarian dictator overtones of this decision, to have the military honoring an individual instead of the country. I've also heard that President Trump wants to change the name of Veterans Day to something about Victory in World War I Day, so that we're not honoring all veterans the way that we used to. This consolidation of power around Trump's ego at the expense of the American people, and in this case our military, is deeply troubling and not what this country is supposed to be about. It's in Russia and North Korea that we force the military to honor the dear leader. It is not supposed to be what the United States of America is about, regardless of whether or not you're a Republican, a Democrat, conservative, liberal. You should be troubled by us looking like a dictatorship instead of a representative democracy.
Congressman Smith, I appreciate your time. It is always great to talk to you, and thank you. And by the way, I will now forevermore remember that other Adam Smith was born on June 14th. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Next.
My birthday's on June 15th, but that doesn't mean anything either.
Well, I might remember it now. They're back to back. All right. Thank you so much, sir. I appreciate it. Sometimes good to get a laugh.
Thanks,
All right.